What's up, folks? It's Parallax Abstraction, and welcome to another indie showcase. This is the kind of game I really like to show off to people because it's sort of arcadey and very mechanics focused, and this one's also fairly inexpensive as well, but that doesn't mean you should write it off, because I've actually been enjoying it quite a bit. This is Breakpoint, and it comes to us from a new, fairly small developer called Studio Aesthesia. I think that's how you pronounce it, I'm not sure. And a new and up-and-coming small publisher called the Quantum Astrophysicists Guild. They've actually already put out some interesting stuff, and they've given me a couple of games to check out. This is the first one that I'm checking out from them, but I've actually been quite enjoying it. It actually came out on the day I'm recording this, so probably the day before this video is going to go live. And yeah, it's only on Steam right now. It's only on PC, PC, Mac, and Linux, however, and it is cheap. With its 20% launch discount, it's only $4 US, and it's probably going to be $5 when it's done. Like I said, it's cheap, and this definitely does wear some of its inspirations on its sleeve, but like I said, don't write it off, because this is one I've been enjoying a fair bit. It's an arcade score attack game. And while I'm going to show you here, it definitely has it wears its inspiration right up front, I think, but in a good way, and it brings its own interesting things to the table. So we're going to fire this up straight away. And any of you who've, been around some popular indie arcade style games are probably going to recognize this right away. Yeah, might look a little bit like a little thing called Geometry Wars. Yeah, it's definitely, I don't think the developers can say with a straight face that they didn't take some significant inspiration from that. But again, don't write it off because of that, because this is making very much its own mark in this kind of genre. And to be honest, we haven't had a new Geometry Wars in a while, so, I think it's fair game at this point. So the idea is, you're taking out shapes to get score, and this is primarily a score attack game. There's no story, no anything like that. So you have three types of attacks. I'm playing with a controller. You can play with a keyboard, but analog control would definitely be good for this. You got a light attack, you got a heavy attack, and you've got a throw. And that's basically it. The throw, you're limited in when you can use it. You'll see there in the bottom left where it shows my weapon with the where it was crossed out there. You have to wait until you build up some charge in order to be able to throw it again. Now, the charge mechanic is where things really come into play here. So you see I'm picking up these little orbs when I kill enemies, and you see that bar that's filling up across the bottom, right? So those are different levels of charge. Now, you're also going to see, you might have seen it there a second ago, you're going to see I have to wait until I have a level of charge built up here for it to become active. There it is. So you see the little thing around me, right? So what happens is every time I do damage to an enemy, when that is active, you see it ticks down a segment. And when the segments run out, you create an explosion that damages everything around you. Now, how much charge you have built up, which you're going to see is the meter along the bottom there, will determine how significant that explosion is. Also, when you build up charge, it gives you a stronger throw. So you see there, you saw, if you looked in the bottom left there, here, let me get another level of charge and I'll show you here. But you'll see that the weapon has, once I build it up, see it has one bar beside it. If I get myself up to a level 2 charge here without popping this off, which I didn't. So the effect is sort of cumulative. There it is. So you see I've got 2 bars there beside it, right? So that basically does a stronger charge. And you can use a charge not only to clear the path in front of you, but to also really rapidly build up your score and multiplier. So, because the thing is, the effect of the orbs, if you will, is cumulative. So the more you pick up more rapidly, the faster the charge builds up. And there are different weapons that you can pick up throughout the levels that have different effects. So this is kind of a spear thing. You can see what this is doing here. There's an axe, there's a sword, there's kind of a switchblade knife, which I really like. So here's the axe, and you can see what this is. This has sort of a wider AoE, but it's a little bit slower. And each weapon has its own charging meter. So you have to accumulate a different number of orbs to get to different levels of weapon charge depending on the weapon that you're using. So there's a little bit of strategy involved in that. My favorite weapon has probably been, I don't think I mentioned this one, there's like a sword weapon. That's probably my favorite. The sort of switchblade knife is kind of my second most favorite. There are achievements in the game as well for killing certain milestone numbers of enemies with each weapon type as well. There's a relatively light one, and then a medium one, and then a high one, which is going to take you a long time. I think the high one is 100 grand each. So here's the knife here, you know, or the switchblade. Yo, you on my turf, man? You know, and especially when you do the heavy attack, you do a little cross swipe like that. It's pretty cool. And I don't really need to explain the different enemies. I mean, you're seeing what they do here. There, that one got me. But you see, when you get hit, it blows up around you. You get 3 lives. So the enemies are a little bit different. You see these purple guys have a shield, so you kind of have to hit them from either from behind or have a charge go off in order to deal with them. Those yellow guys leave kind of like a Tron light cycle thing behind them, and you actually can't pass through that, which is what's kind of interesting. These green guys are kind of the standard ones. The red sort of mine things you take out, and they will shoot out 4 bullets in 4 different directions that you're going to have to dodge. You can't kill those. You have to wait until they pop. So there we go. Let's send that out there, and then we create a big explosion. And you see, this is what you really want to do, is try to rapid fill your charge, and then get a lot of enemies around you, send something out, cause a big explosion, which will drop a whole bunch of score multiplier ups, as well as a whole bunch of orbs, so you can charge up and do it all again. And obviously your aim here is to get yourself the biggest multiplier you can, and utilize that in order to get the biggest score you can. When you die, your multiplier goes back to 0. Again, you can see a lot of parallels to this in Geometry Wars. You know, pretty obvious. And this game does have online leaderboards, so you are able to compete for that. And the online leaderboards have a replay function, which is something not enough games have, and I really love that they put it in this one. You can pick any entry on the leaderboard and watch a full replay of how the person attained that score, which is sort of a nice little defense against cheaters, and also you can just stare, like I can, stare in awe at the crazy esports level play of the people who get to the top of the leaderboards. So here we go. So 666 kills. Lols. So there we are, and there I am, and you see you can go to all of these different things. So of course, if you want to view the top person, you can just do this, download their replay, and there it is. You can up the speed to up to 3 times, and of course you can pause it. You can slow it way down if you want, to 0.1 times if you want. I really love stuff like this. I think this is really cool that you have this in here. And honestly, this is kind of the core of it. The game has a couple of other really interesting little features that I like. One thing that I didn't realize until I started playing was that this game actually supports Corsair IQ, which is the RGB software that's used with Corsair stuff. I have a bunch of Corsair components in my machine here, and I'm going to show you a little bit of footage I captured. This just totally surprised me. When I ran the game, it just started controlling my lights, and as I was playing the game, I kind of looked over at my case, and I was like, huh, well that's kind of cool. And the lights go back to your preset pattern when you exit it, so it's totally optional. And if you go into IQ, if you don't like it, you can go into IQ and turn the effect off. But I thought it was really cool, and they did a really nice job, actually, of syncing up the light effects with the game. IQ integration is something that almost nobody does, and certainly not a small indie title like this. But I saw that, and I was like, nice little touch there. Because, you know, if you got a gaming PC, RGB is all the thing these days. It was never a big deal to me, typically, but I put it in this machine when I built it last year, because why the heck not? And it's, I don't know, it's kind of neat. I don't go too crazy with it, but it's kind of neat. And yeah, honestly, there's not a lot more to tell you guys about this game. It is very simple to explain, but that's kind of what I like about it. This is an inexpensive, good score attack fun time. And I think it's priced very appropriately. It's cheap enough to be an impulse buy. It's cheap enough for anyone who's curious to get in the door. It's cheaper than Geometry Wars was back on the Xbox 360 when it first came out. And like I said, while it's very clear that Geometry Wars was a big source of inspiration from this game, this is not a clone. This game very much has its own identity, its own ideas, and it brings new things to the table, and it does it for less than Geometry Wars does. And that's cool. I think that's pretty impressive. I think these folks did a really nice job with this. And I'm enjoying this. I'm going to keep this installed and fire it up once in a while. This is a game that would be really good to run on, you know, if you have like a work laptop or something, I often talk about good lo-fi games, you know, good indie games that you could play on, like, if you have a laptop with integrated graphics, or even on a work laptop on your lunch break. I'll be honest, I have not tried this on my work laptop. This is a Unity game. Unity games tend to be a little bit more demanding hardware-wise than their visuals would warrant in a lot of cases, unless developers spend a lot of time on optimization. So I don't know what this would be like if you were to fire this up on Intel graphics. It might run fine, it might run like crap, I really don't know. I hope it scales down well, because this is a great game for that kind of thing. To buy for $5 and have on your basic, you know, entry-level computer. I really hope it can do that. It is unfortunately only on PC right now. As I said, PC, Mac, and Linux. This game is screaming for console versions. I mean, this would be perfect, obviously, on the Switch as a quick on-the-go game, but it would be good on all the consoles. And because it is on Unity, it's easily portable, so hopefully this does well enough on PC. I mean, it is a small publisher and an even smaller developer, so hopefully this does well enough on PC that they can get themselves some console versions made, because I think it would be excellent to see in more places as well. Like, I love score attacks. I mean, one of my favorite genres is shmups, even though I'm terrible at them, because I grew up in the arcade era, and I really love games that are focused primarily on good, solid, you know, easy to learn, hard to master mechanics, and score attack stuff, because we don't get score attack in a lot of modern games anymore. And I still love that stuff. That still tickles my nostalgia bone. It still brings me back to the roots. And don't get me wrong, I love games with good stories. I love, you know, a lot of the big modern stuff that we have these days, but I really sometimes love a game that just goes back to core basic mechanical roots. You know, take a relatively simple idea, execute on it super well, and just have a lot of damn fun while you're doing it, you know what I mean? And this does that in spades. I was really, really impressed with this. I'm not gonna lie, when I'm often handed press code for a game from an unknown developer that's like $5, I'm like, oh geez, this is probably shovelware, because I get review codes for a lot of shovelware. But I always like to give every title I'm given a fair chance and a good look to see what it is, because sometimes I'm pleasantly surprised, and this is one of those times. So I really wanted to show this off to you guys, because if you like this genre of stuff like I do, I think this is something you really should take a look at. And the cost of entry is pretty low, plus it's on Steam, which means you got the refund policy. If you really don't like it, then, you know, it's no harm, no foul. But yeah, I think this is really worth looking at, especially since the last Geometry Wars game was good, but it didn't feel quite the same as the original, and we're probably not gonna get another Geometry Wars anytime soon. So, you know, something worth considering there, I think. But yeah, that is Breakpoint, developed by Studio Aesthesia and published by the Quantum Astrophysicists Guild. It is on Steam now on PC, Mac, and Linux. If you buy it during the launch week, it is $4 US, and if you pick it up after that, it's $5 US. Friggin' cheap, friggin' fun, highly recommended. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you did like what you saw here, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. That does help me out a great deal. Click all the things. Please tell people about it. The more people find out about this channel, the more it grows, the more cool stuff I can get to show you guys. Definitely let me know what you guys think about this in the comments, or if you have any other suggestions for games like this. I'm always looking for more stuff like this. So if you've got other ideas for cool arcadey type titles like this, please let me know, because I would love to try them out and maybe cover some of them as well. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you on the next episode of Indie Showcase. You folks have yourselves a good one. Take her easy.